Hello and welcome to Dugout Daily. I'm Charlie and I'm joined by Bernard. How are you, mate?
I'm all right, mate. How are you today?
Not bad. Good result yesterday. We'll get straight into it. Thoughts on the performance? 1-0 win at Chelsea.
It was impressive, wasn't it, mate? Very, very impressive. It's a bit like some of the old City that was. I think we've got used to the last, even though we strolled the league last season, I don't think we've seen that sort of City for a long time. Not certainly in the big games. The sort of pressing, the non-stop action. I mean, it was quite amazing, really. I know it's a one-off game, and in the same way, we get beat or we draw. Pep says, it's only one game. I think we should say, yeah, it's only one game. But what a statement! I think we had to make a statement, and I think we certainly did yesterday with that performance.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get straight into the players, starting with the keeper, Ederson. How do you think he played?
I thought he played really well. I mean, I was looking at obviously I look at Stuart Brennan in the Evening News, and he was saying he was okay, he didn't have much to do, but I thought it was brilliant. I mean, towards the end, certainly the last 15, 20 minutes where he was coming for crosses and obviously coming off his line correctly. I mean, we know what Ederson's like. He does have rushes of blood, but he does tend to have those at the start of games, I think, rather than late on in games when he's trying to get involved. But I thought it was, again, as with all the team, I thought he was excellent. I say he's not really, to me, for a big keeper, he's not overly great at coming for crosses. As I say, you probably have mentioned before, so I did play as a keeper, obviously not to that sort of level for a while. And it's not his strong point coming for crosses, commanding his 6-yard box. But when we needed him to do it yesterday, he was superb. I thought Ederson, that was one of it. Even though he had little to do, it was actually one of his best games I've seen him play.
Yeah. If you had to give him a rating out of 10, what would you give him?
Well, I give everyone a minimum of 7 yesterday. I didn't give anyone less. So I would give Ederson a good 8, a good solid 8 out of 10, to be honest with you, for that display yesterday.
Yeah. On to the back four, starting with the right back, Kyle Walker. How do you think he played?
It's funny, actually, because, I mean, this is a sort of game where Kyle Walker's pace is usually needed a lot more. But I think because of all the work ethic of the rest of the team, you didn't sort of notice him as much as perhaps we normally do, because obviously the other guys were putting it in as well. So I thought he played really well. But of the team yesterday, he was probably one of the quietest I've seen from Walker. But nothing wrong. I don't remember him doing anything particularly wrong. So, yeah, I was quite happy with his performance.
Yeah. Football United TV, Man United fan says, thank you, City, for beating Chelsea. Helped all of us out, including yourselves. And it was funny also seeing United lose at the same time at home to Aston Villa. That feeling never gets old, seeing United lose.
Yeah, well, this is it. I think these big games, everyone wants teams to draw, don't they? I mean, obviously, if we play Liverpool, Chelsea, United fans will probably would like a draw. They'll take, obviously, depending who's top of the league at the time. But I think we all want them to finish as a draw. No, I do when I watch other teams play. But hey, it could have ended in a draw yesterday, the way Tuchel played. But fortunately, we managed to get that little slice of luck, shall we say, to get that goal. And once we got the goal, we could have won it by 2 or 3, to be honest with you.
Yeah. On to the centre backs, starting with the captain yesterday, Ruben Dias. What a defender!
What can you say? You've probably seen that image of him thumping the ground at the end. I mean, Ruben Dias, he's caught it early, hasn't he? He's caught what it means to play for City. All the other teams' fans accuse us of lack of passion and all this sort of thing. You just have to watch players like Vincent Kompany when he played for City and stuff like this. I mean, Dias knows what it's all about now, and obviously, he's as a captain, which obviously he's been thrust upon it now. He was just as superb. I mean, Lukaku obviously didn't have much help from his own team, and against Laporte and Dias, he didn't get much change yesterday, did he? I thought, and certainly Dias was absolutely superb yesterday. Wonderful captain's job in a very good team performance.
Yeah, definitely. On to his centre-back partner, Aymeric Laporte. How do you think he played?
Well, I think the difference in report is I think he was more bringing the ball out and looking smooth, and Dias was doing more of the physical side. I mean, Laporte got stuck in when he needed to, but I think he was more the ball carrier yesterday, and he was just as good in that as Dias was good as standing his ground and blocking the shots, etc. So absolutely, it is. I mean, I love John Stones to bits, but I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, we couldn't see how Laporte could get back in the team, and now we're seeing how can Stones get back in the team. It's an interesting quandary to have. It's a great quandary to have, but yeah, I mean, when you see these two guys play together, you think, well, I feel sorry for Stonesy, but Laporte, yeah, did nothing wrong yesterday. Absolutely super. He said a bit more smooth bringing the ball out than perhaps Dias is, but he does his bit, and Dias does his bit as well. So yeah, but look, great. Another just as good in a different sort of way as Dias, I thought.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, Lukaku and Werner were very isolated up front. Yeah. They couldn't do much, to be fair to him.
Yeah, I mean, Werner was absolutely nowhere, wasn't he? He looked absolutely clueless. I was glad that he played, actually. I didn't really want Havertz to start, to be honest with you. But so I was quite happy when I saw Werner on the team sheet. But yeah, you're quite correct.
Yeah. On to the left back then, João Cancelo. How do you think he played?
Well, I mean, you know, what could you say again? I mean, just in the same way that another player we're going to get to in a minute seems to be finding his feet very quickly. Cancelo's doing the same. He come back and helped out the defence where he had to, but he looks so dangerous going forward. I mean, he's becoming a typical Pep player, and he's still not playing in his correct position, is he? I think he's a right back, is he? Originally, and what a wonderful job he's doing. I mean, you look at that left back spot now, and you think, what we worried about? You know, we've still got Zinchenko as cover, and Cancelo sort of making that role his own now. And he's a left back. He's obviously a right back who could play on the left, and that's what Pep likes doing anyway. So it doesn't really make that much difference. And I thought he played really. He set up the goal basically because he got his shot. He got the rebound for the shot to be put in the goal. So all credit to him. He could have blasted it over like he has a tendency to do, but he hit the target. That's all I ever ask. And I thought Cancelo had a great game, especially going forward, but he was willing to come back and help the defence out as well.
Yeah. Onto the midfield, starting with Bernardo Silva. How do you think he played?
Well, he's a little bunny. I had a little image of him last year, Duracell bunny on, a little battery on his back. It just that has to be, and I think I said it on last night on Twitter and various places. That has to be one of his top 5 displays he's ever done for Manchester City. He was absolutely brilliant. And again, I know I don't want to give them too much publicity, but me and Stuart Brennan giving me 7 out of 10. I just couldn't believe it when I saw that score. I thought, what was he watching? I mean, it was an outstanding. To me, it was almost perfect. So I never give anyone a 10 out of 10. Never. Even Aguero probably for the 93-20 moment would have probably got a 10 out of 10. But I never give anyone that. And I was so close with, because I can't remember him doing much wrong. He was all over the place. I can't remember him putting a pass, not passing to the right person. He was backheading out the ball in his own 18-yard box. It was just a total football by one player. And I thought there must have been a couple of Bernardos playing yesterday. I thought they cloned him because he was from one place to another. I thought he was absolutely brilliant yesterday. Yeah.
On to Rodri. Personally, I gave him man of the match, but we will get onto that later. How do you think Rodri played?
Yeah, when I mentioned Cancelo before, I said there was another guy that seems to be growing this season, and it's Rodri. I've never been a biggest fan, but I have sort of, because people keep saying, oh, he's done this and he's done that. I do try and sort of keep my eye out for him a little bit more than normal. And yes, he's not perfect. Sometimes his turning circle is like an oil tanker at times to get back when something happens. But he's doing what he's supposed to do. All right, he's not a Ferner. Of course, no one will ever be another Fernandinho, but he's now getting his own style within that team, and that's great. You know, he's not trying to be someone else. He's just being who he is. He's not perfect by any means, but again, I noticed him a lot yesterday. Certainly the first half. I thought the second half it passed him by just a little bit, but certainly in that first half, I thought again the old team ethic. I thought he was up there with the best players.
Yeah. And the final midfielder, Kevin De Bruyne. How do you think he played?
Yeah, I think he was probably, if you're going to say there's a weak link, there was a couple I thought yesterday, and KDB was one of them. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He still tried what the things he was trying weren't quite coming off. He still put some great balls through, and he was perhaps the least effective yesterday that we can see. But that's great. That's the trouble when all the other players step up. Yeah, I think you are. He is going to be look not quite as good because we ask too much of him normally, don't we? We ask him to do every pull all the strings, and so if it's not quite working, he's putting the effort in as well. He's putting the effort in on the pitch. So wasn't his greatest performance yesterday, but as I say, I think because everyone else stepped up, it just made Kevin De Bruyne not. I'm not going to say he's not important, but it didn't seem to matter that much, did it? Because we played a different way. Obviously, it's in the same way we played when KDB wasn't playing for us last season. We were dominating and winning games. Obviously, we did that, but with him on the pitch yesterday, and he didn't have to be brilliant, and that's. It's not the highest scorer for me. KDB yesterday, probably one of our weaker players, but in a fantastic team performance like that, there's nothing wrong with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely. On to the front three, starting with the goal scorer, Gabriel Jesus. How do you think he played?
Well, I mean, I looked at that goal he scored. I mean, Jesus is a buzz. He buzzes about, and he's a nuisance when he's on foot. Even if he's not playing great, he's always a nuisance. Not everything worked yesterday, but I look at that goal and I sort of look at it and think if it had fallen to Sterling, I don't honestly think Sterling perhaps would have scored it. I think he would have jinked around and tried to create more space and so. But Jesus has that little instinct. He sort of just shot it, yes, and we got a little bit of luck. It took a slight deflection, but as long as you hit it and it hits the target, there's a chance it's going to go in. There's a chance it's going to go and deflect in the goal. I mean, you think back to that Ruben Dias block he did late in the game. Could have flown in the goal. It could have flown gone anywhere, but it went out for a corner. And in the same way, Jesus, he didn't mess about. He just controlled it as soon as he could and just put it on target. And that's all you need to do. And I say we got the bounce and it went in and it sort of trickled into that goal. It didn't exactly smash the back of the net. But I think that sort of was just somebody's performance up though yesterday. I just thought he did what he had to do. He was a nuisance, and he obviously took a lot of stick off that big thug at the back, didn't he, for Chelsea? Is it Rudiger? That excuse for a footballer who obviously, to me, I just don't like him at all. He must be bruised to buggery, Jesus, and all credit to him for battling all match to put up with that big animal at the back for Chelsea.
Yeah. On to Phil Foden now. How do you think he played?
Well, he's the other one. When I've mentioned KDB, he was the other one that didn't quite do. But I don't think he enjoyed where Pep played him. But at the end of the day, he does his best, doesn't he? I think he was sort of playing more central role, wasn't he? It wasn't ideal for Phil. It's not his role. But obviously, I think Pep wanted to ask you. If Pep asks you to do it, you're going to do it, aren't you? Whether you're comfortable or not with it. But in the same way that KDB, as far as the team was concerned, wasn't outstanding. I think that was probably one of Phil Foden's quietest games as well, as far as being active in it and doing the right things. He was obviously working hard, as you'd expect. But I think he'll get far better positions to play in by Pep over time. But I think he did what he had to do yesterday without being anything special in what was a special performance. Yeah.
And the final starter was Jack Grealish, the new summer signing. How do you think he's played?
Well, again, I thought he wasn't up there with the top ones, but again, he sort of, for me, Grealish, I don't think he's had a bad game as such. Yeah, he's not always been in the games dominated, but obviously when he's got Cancelo on that side as well, they do link up together well. And again, nothing brilliant. He could have had he had a superb save from Mendy, didn't he? Mendy's tip one just past the. I thought it hit it wide, but if you look at the shot, it would have actually snuck in the far corner. That was a superb shot by Grealish. So he's incredibly unlucky. He'd played well up to then, but then he had 81 minutes, was it, where he was through and he tried to dink it over Mendy. But Mendy's a good goalkeeper. I think Mendy's one of the best goalkeepers in the Premiership by a long, long way. I'm quite impressed with Mendy, and I'm not going to do a downer on him. Would have been nice to be 2-0 up with 10 minutes left, but he tried to dink it over him. It didn't quite work, but I think overall, if one of them had gone in, I think he would have been 8, 9 out of 10. But he did what he had to do, and he worried Chelsea, it gave us another little string to our bow. Chelsea haven't had to face him before playing for City, and I don't think they sort of enjoyed that experience, to be honest with you.
Yeah. On to the substitutes, starting with Riyad Mahrez. Only had about 10 minutes. How do you think he played while he was on?
Yeah, I mean, it's unusual substitutes. I think all 3 subs were unusual. I thought they'd be a little bit earlier, but Pep obviously knew what he was doing. I thought the first guy he'd bring on would be Werner, of course, but with 10 minutes left, Mahrez for KDB seemed a not unreasonable change, although, it'd been Tuchel, they would have probably brought on 3 defenders at that stage, wouldn't it? But that's not Pep's way, is it? Let's be honest about it. We're not going to sit back and put extra defenders on unless, Pep does do that, but obviously yesterday I think we're so far in control of that game that he didn't need to worry about that. But so in the time he had on, obviously he just slotted into what KDB was doing. It was no real big difference to the team.
Yeah. The other 2 subs, you mentioned him there, Fernandinho. Only had a couple of minutes, to be fair, but how do you think he played while he was on?
Yeah, I mean, well, any other team seeing him come on the pitch, obviously it's going to make your job harder to try and score a goal. And as I say, for the sake of 8 minutes or something with injury time, it's a psychological thing and it's a time wasting thing. That's what substitutes should be used for at that stage of a game. Even if you're comfortable at 1-0, you've got to show a bit. You've got to be a bit canny, and obviously Pep sometimes doesn't do the things that ordinary managers do, which is okay. That's fine, but we're all sort of thinking, just kill a bit of time, just bring Fernandinho on, then a minute later bring someone else on. But he brings 2 on at the same time. I mean, sometimes I don't quite understand the logic, but that's why he's paid the big bucks, isn't it? I'd say it's not how I play it, but there you go. It wasted time, and obviously if you're going to bring someone on, you're not going to bring one of the kids on, are you? You're going to bring someone experienced on. So he did what he had to do.
Yeah, and Raheem Sterling came on at the same time as Fernandinho. Only had a couple minutes really, but how do you think he played?
Yeah, I think the thing with Pep is I think he has to put him on against Chelsea. I think that's just his rule now. If we play Chelsea, Sterling has to play. Now, if he only plays him for the last 5 minutes of the game, I'm quite happy with that. If he starts him in a game, then I would be less happy, let's say. And we're obviously going back to only 3 or 4 months to when that didn't work out. But I think it must be an unwritten rule, because I think from memory, I think he might have touched the ball once. I'm not too sure, but I think it's just an unwritten rule with Pep now that if we play Chelsea, Sterling has to make at least some sort of appearance. But as long as it's the last 2 or 3 minutes, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. On to Pep. How do you think he did yesterday?
Well, it was a masterclass, wasn't it? I mean, he's in danger going 4 games on the trot, but and that would have been a record against any manager, I think. Never mind just Tuchel and what have you. So I think he responded perfectly. And to be honest with you, if you look at the players he had, I don't think there's. If you'd have said to me, or you perhaps, an hour before the game, before the team sheet come out, these are the guys that are available. These are the guys that are fit. I think it more or less picked itself. I mean, I'm fairly sure you would have picked the same team. As I say, there's only a couple of things might have been, but I mean, you just thought perhaps Stones. But I mean, obviously, if the other guys are fit, I think that was the 11 we expected. So all credit to Pep for doing it. All credit for the guys for pressing and making Pep's system work. I'm not sure we could do that week in, week out for the next 30 games in the league, but without tiring ourselves out too much. But no, I think overall you can't. I mean, if you mark Pep out of 10, you'd be up in the 9s, 9.5, wouldn't you? I think for that, for how he played it with his team yesterday, perfect and almost perfect, I think.
Yeah. Static said, well done to Man City. Guardiola finally wins against Tuchel. Yeah, he went 3 defeats, FA Cup semi-final, 95th minute winner conceded in the Premier League at home to Chelsea, and of course the Champions League final. 3 losses in a row, but it was a brilliant performance yesterday. And
yeah, I mean, if we could go back in time, and I'm sure if Pep could go back in time, we'd do things differently. I mean, also you think about that 95th minute loss at the Etihad that we had. Again, that was Pep, wasn't it? I mean, me or you would have been happy with a point, and we would have made sure we got a point. But Pep doesn't think like that, and that's why we lost that game, because we certainly shouldn't have lost it. We should have worst have drawn. But again, that's Pep. That's what makes Pep so unique, really, in management, doesn't it? So, as I say, it's thin lines, it's decisions, but fortunately, he did get it right yesterday.
Yeah, on to Chelsea. Mentioned them, they beat us in the last 3. It was just when I found out watching Chelsea yesterday, they were just boring to watch. To be honest, just putting loads of men behind the ball, they weren't making the game entertaining, really.
I think Tuchel is one of these managers that they're not that bad. Chelsea aren't as bad as they looked yesterday. They're not. They're just not. I just think Tuchel obviously has some sort of routine certainly against the big teams. You know, he's going to play a certain way. And in the same way, Pep will always play his way to some extent, but then he has the odd moment where he collapses. But you think of that Chelsea team yesterday, as soon as he went a goal behind, it was a totally different animal. All right, they didn't create much, but at least he looked a lot lively. But I just thought Tuchel's animation in that first half, I don't think Chelsea were quite playing as he wanted them to either. I mean, he wasn't happy. And if he told these guys to go out and play like that and get pushed back and pressed back, I mean, they didn't have much option. Don't get me wrong with the way City played. But Tuchel was animated. He didn't really enjoy that. And yeah, I think Chelsea are better than that. I'm sure Tuchel will learn from that going forward, unfortunately. I mean, I'd love to say they're now going to collapse in a heap and finish mid-table, but they won't. They'll come back. They'll bounce back. They've got too many good players not to bounce back. And but it was a bit disappointing. But I think Tuchel plays due respect to whoever is playing. He'll, if need be, he will play these sort of games, because at the end of the day, say yesterday, he could have easily. I think if asked us, most of us at half time, we thought, well, we've had a lot of possession. Are Chelsea going to nick one and do it again on us? And that was very feasible. As I say, it wasn't the cleanest of goals we scored, and obviously it was only that brought Chelsea out. But I don't think he'll change much. He will learn from it, but he's not going to suddenly change his whole philosophy. But I think they are better than that. Certainly against the so-called weaker teams, of course, they can dominate them. They couldn't get anywhere near City yesterday to dominate us. So I don't think he'll worry too much about it. But as I say, it wasn't the greatest tactics, but normally it works. Yesterday for Mr. Tuchel, unfortunately, he came up against a far better team, and it just didn't work yesterday for him. Yeah.
On to the referee then, Michael Oliver. How do you think he did yesterday?
I thought it was excellent. I thought it was excellent, Michael Oliver, yesterday. I'm not a big fan of refs. I used to mark them, then I just give up, because he always used to get 4 or 5 out of 10. So I stopped doing it. I just make a comment now. And I thought Michael Oliver, more all right, he could have protected the players a little bit more from one or two of the thugs. I won't name him again, but. Yeah, I mean, it's a man's game after all, isn't it? And they are supposed to give a little bit more leeway, but certain players do push that a little bit to the extremes. But I've no complaints against Michael Oliver yesterday. I thought he took charge of a big game. It was a big game, a lot of emotion, a lot riding on it. I think he did a pretty good job. He was helped by the fact there wasn't any overly dodgy decisions he had to sort of have a look at and make a big judgment on. So that does help, obviously, with the referee. You don't have to make any big judgment calls. Of course it does. But no, I was reasonably happy. As I say, I wouldn't have minded a little bit more of a yellow card or two early on. I think he showed a few near the end, didn't he? But I think he should have perhaps. I think they're a bit scared of showing them too early. Well, some refs are anyway. But I think he could have got a grip of a couple earlier on. But as a referee, I mean, I was quite happy. He seemed equally as bad for both teams. I was quite happy yesterday.
Yeah, and the final question, we mentioned it before, but who's your man of the match?
Yeah, well, I think you probably gauge you are. No, you said yours was old Rodders, wasn't it? But I couldn't. I just think for the total, he does it all the time, but sometimes you notice it more than others. And yes, as I say, I just thought he was all over the place. And but it's got to be Bernardo. Obviously, was my personal man of the match, and I try not to give it too often because I end up giving him loads of times. I certainly did, obviously, 2 or 3 seasons, 18-19 season when the team was outstanding and Bernardo was outstanding. Especially within that team, and obviously the team was outstanding against Chelsea, and Bernardo was equally just as outstanding. He made the whole thing tick and keep it together. I just thought he was brilliant yesterday, but I think they were all, even De Bruyne and Foden, who perhaps didn't get involved as much as they probably would have wanted to. I thought they were all pretty much man of the match yesterday. But if you have to give me one, obviously I would give it the old Duracell Bernie, to be honest with you. So he would be mine.
Yeah, you mentioned it there in the 18-19 season. I remember against Liverpool at home. That was one of the best solo performances I've ever seen. Ankit, a Chelsea fan, says Mendy kept Chelsea in the game, but honestly, he gave man of the match to any of our midfielders. Yeah, I probably agree with that, to be fair. Just quickly before we wrap it up, mate, where can we find you?
Yeah, everything I do, you can get me through Twitter on @Bernard Dineen, @Charles Dineen, and Dineen spelt with 2 N's. But if you put Bernard Dineen, DINN, in any Google search, there's not many people with my name, so you'll find all my YouTube stuff and City past and present, and obviously I do film and TV stuff as well. You want to have a little rest from football, so if you get onto @Charles Dineen, you'll find all my links to everything I do out there, so that'd be great to see you.
Yeah, cheers for coming on again, mate.
No problem, mate. Enjoyed it, Charlie, mate. No worries.
Yeah. You can find me at MCFC Hibs on Twitter, Dugout Daily on YouTube. Big up everyone that's been in the chat. Make sure to check out all Bernard's stuff as well, and I'll see you all later. Take care and peace.
See you later.